Baca. I hope you're doing well.
Great.
All right, so this question is, our city's infrastructure is deteriorating. So what plans do you have to prioritize San Bernardino County for county infrastructure funding, and how would you ensure that roads, utilities, parks, and public spaces are improved?
Okay, that's great. So in the city of San Bernardino, I'm giving money for 3 parks. It's not my responsibility to do it. I'm doing it because we can, we have the resources to do it. So there's 3 parks in San Bernardino. One just started construction probably about a month ago. You guys are familiar with Guadalupe Park on the west side of San Bernardino. Have any idea where it is? We gave about, you know what, we gave almost $1 million to help rehabilitate that park. It's not our jurisdiction, but I'm doing it because it's the right thing to do and to help. Are you guys familiar with Spiker Park? You know where Spiker Park is? You know where San Gorgonio is? You know that park across the street? That's Spiker Park. The county has put almost $1 million into that park. And then what we did is I have a relationship with the San Manuel Band of Mission Indians. I said, hey, can you guys help out? So they kicked in $1 million. You have $2 billion between the county and San Manuel that's going into Spiker Park to do improvement. Another park that we invested money. Are you guys familiar with KKC Little League? Do you guys know where 14th and Mount Vernon is? So 14th and Mount Vernon, the Little League, and all these are driven by the leagues. They all came to me because they said, Baca, you're the park guy. So they came to me and they said, hey, can you help? It was the Gutierrez family that has a lot of history there. So we put about $750,000. The city matched with $250,000. So that park is going to have some improvements. Their snack bar, their fences, and all these improvements that they're going to make in that community. That's not my responsibility. It's not my jurisdiction, but I did it because we had some discretionary money to help. Now the parks that I'm responsible for is Glen Helen Regional Park, which I mentioned before. We've invested $16 million into Glen Helen Regional Park, splash pads, new playground, additional parking, solar lighting, all these things have been invested. And the other 2 parks that the county is responsible for is in Bloomington. You guys remember Bloomington? So Bloomington has what they call a special district. And what does that mean? Everybody in Bloomington's taxed, and some of that money goes to pay for their park. So they have 2 parks. One park is Kessler Park. We've invested about $8 million in the Kessler Park. As a matter of fact, they have the Bloomington Dreamfield, which is under construction. It'll be done in February, $3.1 million. We've added Wi-Fi. We've added a security fence. We've cleaned up their snack bar. We added new benches. We've done a ton of things out there. Ayala Park, which is located at right off Marigold and the north end of Bloomington. We've added splash pads, which will be done right before the summer. We just added a community garden for our local Bloomington Girl Scouts. So we've made significant investments. One of the things we also done is we added feeding for our seniors. I champion making sure our seniors have feeding. So those are some of the investments I've made in the parks. That's just in those communities. I can go on with Rialto, we've done some things. Colton, we made investments in Muscoe Elementary School, $2.1 million for outdoor playgrounds for the kids. Huge investment. Indian Springs High School, you guys know where Indian Springs is?
Yeah.
We've invested $1.5 million in a wellness center to help with wellness. So there's been a lot of things we've done to invest in the community. Am I required to do it? No, but I think it's the right thing to do, to build those strong relationships, but also to make a lot of good investments in our community. Okay, next question.
Hello, Supervisor Baca. My name is Ethan, and this question is regarding education and college access.
Okay.
So, as an educator yourself, you know that the San Bernardino community has low college enrollment. So, what role can the county play in offering more educational programs and partnerships with local schools to improve college readiness and access for all students?
Well, that's great. Appreciate that. Great question. So, one of the things I do twice a year. We just did one last month, the College and Career Readiness Fair. We have a good workforce development department that we can make accessible to our schools if necessary. We can actually probably set up a career day at the school. But we do one at the government center. Now, I like to expose our kids to the government center, but I also like kids to think about a job in government. You know, think about it, whether it's the county of San Bernardino, we have 23,000 employees. And I tell people, there's any job you can do with the county. You can be a doctor, you can be a lawyer, you can be a nurse, you could be a phlebotomist, you could be a sheriff, you could be a firefighter, you can do anything. You can work with the TAD department. There's a countless number of opportunities for the county. We have offices in every city in the county: Rialto, Colton, San Bernardino, Needles, Victorville, Barstow. So there's a countless amount of opportunities. I always tell people, consider come working for the county. If you wanna go, anybody wanna go in the medical field? Quite a bit of you. The medical field is one of the #1 growing industries in the county of San Bernardino. We have the Arrowhead Regional Medical Center, which is under our jurisdiction, 4,000 employees. They have about 1,000 employees a shift. So you're talking about a lot of opportunities to come work right here. We actually have a medical school. You guys know we have a medical school in Colton? Yeah, most people don't know, we have a med school. There's scholarship opportunities. Consider getting a scholarship to ours. But we do our college and career readiness is to try to expose people. That's just what I do as my role, to try to expose kids to government and ask questions. Because you know what, for all of you, in a short period of time, you're gonna be entering college or the workforce, wherever you decide to go. I always tell people that, who can tell me the difference between playing checkers and chess? What's the difference?
Chess, there's different strategies, there's different movements for each piece, so you have to be aware of what your enemy could plan. While checkers is usually pretty straightforward on what's going to happen.
Yeah, that's a good point. So you're thinking more long-term. So when all of you start thinking about your jobs and careers, start thinking about what's gonna be, I've changed my careers several times. You know, I've been a probation officer, correctional officer, teacher, and now a county supervisor. I'm still technically an employee with the Rialto Unified. I'm on legislative leave. But start thinking big term. Start thinking about, you know, your benefits. You know, if you have kids someday, if you decide you're gonna have children, how am I gonna pay for childbirth? How am I gonna pay for vision? How am I gonna pay for dental? How am I gonna pay for healthcare? And as you get older, I mean, Mr. Eastwood could tell you, your body just breaks down. You get sick, you get hurt, things happen. But he's a fine looking specimen, right? But it's just a fact of life. You know, we all are gonna get older, but start thinking longer. Start thinking about a retirement. I'm 55 now, so I'm at that age where I gotta start thinking about, hey, I probably got 10, 12, 14 more years of work, and then how do I wanna live after? So always look long-term. You know, still, you know, don't wait to start putting money away and start saving money for your retirement, because they're saying now for many of those that retire, you know, people used to retire at 50, 60, and they would only live maybe 10 years after the retirement. Now people are living 20, 30 years. So you have to think about, hey, how do I wanna live? And do I wanna put this burden on my children and my families? But I mean, I know it's kind of a long answer, but I wanted to start with looking long-term. But the county does have a lot of resources with our workforce development department. Do you ever need any contacts with them? Maybe we could bring workforce development to come speak to your class and talk about job opportunities and things, but we do it at our level. But it's a great question.
Supervisor, can I add on to that? Ask you to add on to that a little bit.
Sure.
Can you speak, and I don't know, because I don't know if it's something the county offers, but can you speak to the idea of the transition for our special ed students, from the time they leave here to the workforce?
Yeah, they do have some money and funding that they put in for special needs students to try to help them with employment. But I can get you a clearer answer if we can go to the department and get back to you, if you don't mind.
That'd be great.
Okay.
That'd be great.
That's a good question.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Baca. My question is about job creation and economic development. How would you use your role as county supervisor to attract business and create job opportunities in San Bernardino, particularly in ways that benefit residents of low-income backgrounds?
No, that's a good question. It's a very good question. So one of the things we have to look at doing is, you know, where can we create jobs? You know, job creation is just so important. I mean, one, I'll just talk about the county. There's a lot of opportunities with the county that I just think educating our kids, and it could be the county, it could be the school district, it could be a city, and just letting our people know that there are opportunities out there, even within our communities. Because government's probably one of your #1 employers. People don't realize that Omnitrans, our local transit agency, has a bunch of jobs. They're good paying jobs. People don't realize the school district has a lot of good paying jobs. The city of San Bernardino has a lot of good paying jobs. The county offers several jobs. But one of the things that we have to look for is economic development. What are economic opportunities? I think one of the things I think that I would like to focus on at some point in time is actually our international airport. Our airport has just a few flights right now. I think growing that airport, I think if that airport continues to grow, there's more job opportunities, whether it's flight stewards, whether it's pilots, whether it's people working at TSA within the airport. I think that's a good opportunity. For us in Bloomington community, it's probably where have the most land jurisdiction, land use influence. I can't tell San Bernardino, Rialto, or Colton how to do land use within their communities. But one of the things we're really focusing on is, we just went over with staff, is we have this corridor on Valley Boulevard in Bloomington where we want to start developing, grocery stores and just other economic opportunities. But I think, people don't realize that also construction, keeping jobs going, whether it's transportation projects, all these things are really good jobs. You guys know what prevailing wages? Know prevailing wages? If you don't know what prevailing wages, this is anytime money's given to do a construction job in our community by government, you're required, the group's required to pay a certain amount. In other words, they call it a government rate, was actually pretty high. It's a lot higher than minimum wage. It's a lot higher than others. So as long as we continue to build freeways, those also create many jobs, especially those that go into the building trades. The biggest challenge for us is, what do we do for an educated workforce? Those are big challenges. I think those are some things we have to think long-term about. I don't have an answer for it now, but I think that's something that we should be gunning for in the near future. But for me, under my first term, I'm just trying to get things cleaned up. I'm just trying to get things, going. We got a lot of work to do, a lot of catching up to do. And even if I stay here 16 years, I probably won't get all the things that need to be done. But that's why our level has to be very, very focused. We have to be very, very diligent on what we want to get done. But those are good questions. Next question.
Good morning, Mr. Baca. So this is our last question for you
Okay.
today, and it is regarding community engagement. So as we all know, San Bernardino has a very diverse population, and regarding that, our question is, how will you ensure that the voices of minority communities are represented at the county level, and how would you engage with our residents to understand their needs? So after this, how would you stay connected with the residents of the 5th District and ensure their voices are heard in local decision making?
Sure, it's a good question. So one of the things I like to do is I drive the community a lot. So I could probably tell you where most of the homeless are in this community. I drive the community, I look, you listen, when you're out in the community, you have to listen, right? I don't have all the answers, but we hear people that are concerned, like the parks I talked about in San Bernardino. People said, hey, these are a problem. So they came to me, you listen, and you have to listen. And one of the things you have to understand is if you go to more affluent communities, they're a lot more active, they're a lot more vocal, and they will speak out. And the big challenge in some of our less affluent, lower socioeconomic communities is they don't speak out, they don't get involved. Either it's not important to them, either their parents are busy, or there's just a lot going on in their life. But it's important that we try to inform. We try to do some events where we're inclusive. Like we had an event where we're naming a shopping center, and we let the community decide, hey, what do you want to name the shopping center? We had also an engagement, a social media engagement, where we were doing an entry monument for our Glen Helen Amphitheater. We're like, hey, what do you want it to look like? So we had 2 versions, and they were voted really close, and we ended up combining them and having that. But we really try to listen. I stay engaged. I go to a lot of community events, and I hear people. But I know that people are hurting, people are having a difficult time, and you have to be sensitive to people's needs. And it's important that you don't forget where you come from. Always remember, just because you're doing well, remember there's others that are struggling and having a good time. You have to be sensitive to that. But we try to engage the community. Like we did a community questionnaire in the Rosina Ranch community, which is a little more fluent. We asked people, how many of you would like to have soccer lights for your soccer field? They had over 1,000 responses. That's impressive to have that many people respond to the community. We send out mailers, we send out flyers. We had a community dump day we did. I was walking this whole neighborhood, man. I was just lip dropping flyers reminding people, hey, we're having a free dump day here. We're letting you know. I was doing it this morning in Bloomington, reminding people. I was out walking the neighborhood, just reminding people. I try to do it myself. It gives me an opportunity to see the community, see the neighborhood, but really listening. You gotta listen. We get people that request meetings from us, and I usually take meetings with everybody. I usually don't tell people no. I try to meet with the community, constituents, when they have concerns. We have a constituent service rep, so we get a lot of constituent calls, and most of our calls that we get are either graffiti, code enforcement, or sometimes TAD, people that need assistance. Those are probably the bulk of the calls that come to our office. I mean, people just need help. But those are some of the things that we talk about. Is there anything you guys would like to hear about or know about?
So, Supervisor, got just a couple of minutes.
Sure.
There's a couple of things I want to do. First of all, those of you that are in YAC, the YS Youth Committee, how many of them are you today? How many? So we've got a few that are involved in that. That's great at the county level. So, first of all, thank you. And we'll do a round of applause here in a moment. But with the last 2 minutes, you're an educator. These are seniors. Thoughts?
Yeah, just for seniors, have a plan. Have a plan when you exit high school. I'll give you an example. I've seen a lot of students of mine, very sharp, but they just didn't have a plan after high school. They couldn't figure out what they want to do. I've seen students that go, they get their degrees from UCLA, and they still, can't figure out what they do. So just continue to have a plan, continue to grow, continue to invest in yourself. Always try to get better, and you could change your career 100 times. I got this from a college professor. He says, I'd rather have a degree and not need it than need it and not have it. So get your degree, whether it's a degree, whether it's trade tech, whatever it is. Most important thing, find something you enjoy doing. Find your passion. We're all good at something. I wanted to become a professional baseball player. I played college baseball, but when we played UCLA, Fullerton, and all these big schools, San Diego State, there was just people better than me. I was overmatched. And I thought I was good. My funky little level in Little League, you think you're great, you're leading the league in home runs, but then every level it gets harder. So just the most important thing, don't get discouraged. You're gonna make mistakes, you're gonna fall down. Don't let other people discourage you, because there's always what you guys call them haters, right? That's the high school thing, there's haters. Don't let people pull you down. Don't let them discourage you. Remember, there's room for everyone to succeed. And I'll just quickly end on this. The last thing is the crab story, the crab syndrome. You guys heard about the crab syndrome? Just real quick, okay? There's 2 fishermen. They're fishing crabs. They got a bucket of crabs, right? One fisherman says, the second fisherman says, hey, let's go eat. The second fisherman said, that's a great idea, but what about all these crabs in this bucket? They go, let's cover them up. First fisherman says, you don't need to cover them up. You know what? Because they're going to pull each other down. They're never going to get out. So you have a chance to escape, get out, and have a better life. Create a better life for your families, so then you could create generational wealth. So your kids have something to hand out to the other. I want to leave my children something. And that would just be my advice to you.